The state of Maryland, the governor of the state of Maryland, to Martin Mitch D. Tullai, greetings. Be it known that on behalf of the citizens of this state, in recognition of a joyous tribute to honor and celebrate your love of family and the many wonderful memories you have to share, congratulations on your 90th birthday. And as the people of Maryland proudly join together in expressing our best wishes to a wonderful and beloved Marylander, we are pleased to confer upon you this governor's citation, given under my hand and the Great Seal of the State of Maryland this 28th day of September 2018, signed by Governor Larry Hogan, Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford, and Secretary of State John Washington. And now here's our opportunity for a few stories from a master of them. Please welcome Mr. Martin D. Mitch Tullai.
I'm going to make it. Charlie, I want to thank you for those kind words. My father would have liked them, and my mother would have believed them. You know, it's great to be here, certainly with this terrific group, but I guess when you're 90, it's good to be anywhere. And I want to remind you, Skip Darrell the other day said that when you get old, three things happen. First, your memory goes. I've forgotten the other two. But the point I'm making is that, you know, I may throw out a date that's wrong or a name that's wrong, so just be tolerant. I sort of feel, actually, like the two cows who were near a superhighway, and a big highway truck is driving by. It's a large milk truck. Has these signs emblazoned all over the truck which say pasteurized, homogenized, standardized with vitamin D added. One cow turns to the other and says, makes you feel sort of inadequate, doesn't it? So while I might not feel inadequate, I certainly am humbled, and I'm honored, and I'm most appreciative of this honor, and would like to thank the school, the headmaster, Dave Faust, Charlie Mitchell, Jeff Dudley, and all the members who were involved. I'm not sure who they are. You know, the old saying is, if you find a job you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And I believe that because that's exactly what I think I experienced here at St. Paul's. And I guess, in a way, this is like saying maybe the secret of life is not to do what you like, but to like what you do. And I've liked what I've done. But at any rate, I want to thank Mr. Middleton, who was an outstanding headmaster, Mr. Clark, Jim Ratcliffe, and thanks to the others who under the headmasters I served under, Jack Orderman and Bob Hallett, and the present head. Of course, I mentioned Dave Faust. I'd like to mention something about Jim Ratcliffe. Jim Ratcliffe seemed to be a harsh, tough hombre, as they would say. But he was probably the most understanding guy. But he knew the students, and I always appreciated that. Of course, he was in combination with Mr. Middleton. One was the gentle, fine guy, which was genuine, and Jim was, of course, the guy who would do the other side of it and be tough if he had to be, stuff like that. One day, now if I have this right, Ridge Warfield, John Boyce, David Patton, and Merle Smith played hooky. They didn't get back to the school until 1 p.m. They'd been out carousing, went to restaurants, went to different places, visited Boys Latin, went to a movie. And they get to school at 1 o'clock. And Jim says, as he's smoking his pipe, and most people remember that, he said, what happened to you guys? It's 1 o'clock. And they said, well, we had a tire problem. We had a busted tire. And he looked, he said, and it took you this long? They said, well, we tried to do the best we could. He said, okay, you go in that corner, you go in that corner, you go in this corner, you go in that corner. And he takes out 4 slips of paper and gives each one a slip of paper and some pencils. He said, now, write down which tire was flat. And I'm telling you, he was on the money with almost everything he did, I guess. I want to thank Brian Hagley and Kirk Unruh and John Green, former all-star football players, for their thoughtful and generous act in creating the foundation in my name. I also want to acknowledge my appreciation to the wonderful but anonymous fellows who gave me much aid and comfort with regard to my knee problem that I hope to get resolved sometime. But at any rate, I'm very grateful for that. You know, I came to St. Paul's in 1953. Now, after I was here, maybe just a couple of weeks, I sensed that for some reason I gained a reputation for being an aggressive, hard-nosed coach. Now, part of it, I guess, a sports writer come out and asked a couple of guys what they thought of your new coach. Well, it was either Billy Conkling or Kermit Billis. I don't know which one of those guys. But, but the answer was, they said, well, when you see Coach talking calmly to the quarterback, you know that the game hasn't started yet. So I say that I was innocent, but I guess it'll depend. The fact of the matter is, there were coaches who were much tougher than me, and I think they were driven by whatever. There was a coach up in Pennsylvania, was not only tough, but he was clever. There's a story about him. He took his team to a camp to have the regular football regimen prior to the season. They took 2 trucks. One would take care of all the blocking pads and the sleds and stuff, and the other would take care of the undergear and the towels. Well, the smaller truck broke down. They had to take it to a garage, and it never did reach the camp. In the meantime, after 2 days of practice, going 2 a day, the players were just miserable, so they said to the captains, how about talking to that coach? So they went in and they said, hey, coach, we're really miserable. We don't mind the blocking drills and the tackling drills and the wind sprints and the fast and slows, but, you know, we need a change of undergear. The coach said, okay, man, I'll talk to you after the first practice. So after the AM practice, the coach says, okay, men, gather around. I have some news for you. I have some good news and some bad news. First of all, there will be a change of undergear today. Well, the players were just ecstatic, shouting, dancing, doing somersaults. Then he said, now the bad news. Kirk changed with John. Harry changed with Billy. Charlie. You know, he's the coach. He's the coach that said, he was talking to a group, I guess, of Kiwanis. He said the best cure for insomnia is to get a lot of sleep. Hey, that's really true. He also told an Elks audience, he said, this morning I'm going to speak my mind because I have nothing to lose. And he was the guy, after his defense gave up a couple of touchdowns, he said, yeah, we were in a nickel defense, but we played it like 2 cents. So I wasn't that tough in comparison, I guess. You know, in football, communication is important. You know, players have got to understand what is the coach wants, and then they've got to carry it out. Well, I learned a good lesson following my junior year in high school. I was selling Raleigh household products. I didn't do that well, but, you know, I sold a few. But at any rate, I stopped at a house. I ring the bell, and a youngster about 7 or 8 years old opens the door. I said, where's your mommy? And he said, she ain't home. I said, ain't home? Ain't home? Where's your grammar? He said, she's upstairs sleeping. You know, lack of communication is bad. And I remembered this, so when I started coaching, I decided the best thing to do would be to start slowly and work gradually, not throw a lot of stuff on these guys and just confuse them. So I came to the first meeting carrying a football. And I said, gentlemen, this is a football. Up goes a hand. Harry Pollock says, "Sir, sir, not so fast." But I have to tell you the truth about Harry. Harry was a tackle, linebacker. He played both ways. In 1966, we had a really good team. We lost one game. We lost to McDonough. We had a lot of injuries. We lost to Hank Smith and a number of other key players. Billy Conkling and Bruce Cornbrooks carried the load for us. But we lost that game. I think it was 9-0. But the next week, we're going to play Severn. So I looked at what we had. Now, we had maybe 28 guys on the team. I moved Chuck Ellinger from fullback to end because Bo Whiteside, our end, was hurt. And I moved a couple of guards were exchanged, stuff like that. But now I needed a fullback. So Harry Pollock was tough, good blocker. And I said, "Harry, I'm going to make you fullback." And of course, he puffed out because he figured he'd be playing a position where you had a lot of glory. As it turns out, our fullback was a blocker. In effect, he was another guard. But at any rate, we win the game. We win the game 46-6. I mean, easily. That's when Neil Smith said, "Hey, Coach, how about a few more touchdowns?" You know, Neil wanted to get about 80. But at any rate, Parker Lindsay was a Severn coach. Good guy, good coach. And he said to me, he says, "You know, after you guys lost to McDonough, I figured that we had a chance to beat you guys." And now this is a true story. And then he said, "When I saw in the pregame drills that Harry Pollock was your fullback, I figured we didn't have a chance." And I give you that story because coaches aren't that thoughtful of the opponents. But I thought that was high praise. You know, things are not always what they seem. We played a game, and I think it was Severn again. We were down by 2 points, tough game, scores 14-12. We scored 2 touchdowns early and then didn't get a first down. It's now to the point with a minute and a half to go. We get down the 12-yard line because of penalties, and we completed a couple passes. It's 4th down, goal to go at the 12. I knew that we couldn't score by a pass. I knew that we couldn't run it in. So I called a timeout, and I said, "Look, we're going to run a play that we don't have." He said, "What?" We never had done anything with a field goal because we didn't have anybody who could kick. And I got the guys in a circle, and I said, "Look, this is what you do, 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 and then we're gonna have a field goal pass." And some of you remember Chuck O'Connell, some of you remember Carl Schulteis and Lawrence Scheffenacker. They were the key guys. Chuck was a supposed holder. Carl Schulteis was back there as if he was going to kick it, and Lawrence Scheffenacker was going to go out for a pass. As it turns out, the play works perfectly, and I always wondered after that why we didn't put it in forever. But at any rate, I thought strange things happen, even in a football game where it's so dramatic. And when that happened, I always thereafter put in some kind of fake field goal pass. I want to mention about the fact that sometimes in football it's really disappointing. You know, there are highs and lows. It's great to win, and losing is terrible. You know, coaches hate to walk across the field and shake hands. That's an awful thing. But you do it. But John McKay, who was a great coach in college, and then he coached well at Tampa Bay, but 1 year after his Tampa Bay was beaten badly by the Chicago Bears, a reporter asked McKay, said, "What did you think about your team's execution?" He said, "I'm all for it." So you got to move along with a sense of humor, I guess. You know, there was something else that happened that I thought was unique for us. It was 1970, and I was wondering who our quarterback would be. Billy Clements and Harry Turner were our nominal quarterbacks, and they were good, terrific ball handlers, but they didn't have good arms. That God just didn't give it to them. Now, in the meantime, Wayne Eisenhut had come over from Boys Latin, which I didn't even know that at the time. But at any rate, in our first practice when he was a senior, in this particular year, he's running around. I said, my gosh, he looks pretty good, has good speed. And then I noticed that he was a pretty good passer. So Chuck O'Connell was coaching with me then, and I decided that it might be a good idea if we could get him to pass, but at the same time we wanted him to run. So we devised a system whereby we had the quarterback, whether it was Billy or Harry, line up behind the quarterback and snap the ball through his leg to Wayne, who was about 4 yards back, and then he could run or pass. And I'll be a son of a gun, we were undefeated that year. So you don't know what's going to happen. It's also nice to know this. Bobby Clemens, a football player of note, lacrosse player of note, great sense of humor. A short time after I retired, I came to see a football game, and Bobby came up to me and he said, "Sir, I want to congratulate you on having the field named after you. That's really great." And he sort of dropped his head. He said, "Look what they named after me." And I looked there, and it says Spotta Pots and the name of the company, Bobby's Potties. You know, I didn't ask him whether he had received the Dear John letter. I don't know. I want to thank all my coaching associates. Some of them are here. Mike Renko, Rick Collins, Chuck O'Connell, Tom Longstreth, Neil Smith is here, George Mitchell, Brian Abbott's here, who did so well at Loyola, Mark Roos, and Mark Curtis. And I'd like to thank the players. A bunch of them are here. And I'll tell you, you guys made some ragtag coaches look pretty good. Also, I found teaching U.S. history and the related subjects interesting. Not only that, but satisfying. Whether it was Henry Krajewski or Hannibal Hamlin or the Electoral College, whatever it was of interest. And teaching at St. Paul's enabled me to investigate, to study, and look at various areas of interest so that I could give my students a fuller dimension of the landscape of history. You know, St. Paul's teachers, when I was here, enjoyed a great deal of independence. As long as you did your job well, you were not restricted to move along in lockstep with other people. I'll tell you, Jim Ratcliffe and Mr. Middleton knew everything that was going on. It was astonishing to me because it looked as if it was casual, but it was well done. And, you know, nobody told me, for example, to put up bulletin boards or make cards and signs or become a Lincoln presenter or do a Lincoln Day or take the kids to Gettysburg or write some supplementary text for your term courses. It's stuff like that. Nobody had to. That's what teachers did. It was a part of teaching, and I enjoy that as much as anything. In sum, I'll say this. It was a great place to teach, and I believe it is so now. I thank my teaching associates. You know, it's been said that teaching is 25% preparation and 75% theater. However, while that's a nice quip, I think that preparation and continuing education is paramount. You know, the Saturday Evening Post suggested this. It said that the aim of education is not just teaching kids how to count, but teaching them what counts. And I think that really is a good and apt description of an element at St. Paul's. Hey, listen, thank you for being here. God bless you, and may the better angels of your nature always be with you. And thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, listen, and make sure you get down to the game.
Crusaders!